In the continuation of our story, Yi Chuan was surprised by what Master Tai Shin said about enhancing his weapon. So he asked how it could be enhanced. Master Tai Shin explained that the golden venom spider had the attributes of both gold and poison. He could extract one of these attributes and refine it into the blade, giving the weapon an additional effect. Yi Chuan asked why they couldn't just attach both attributes. Master Tai Shin replied, asking if he was dreaming. He explained that once one attribute was extracted and refined, the other one disappeared. He also told Yi Chuan that he was lucky since he was in a good mood today. He would enhance it for free this time. He then asked Yi Chuan to choose between the attributes, poison or gold. As they entered inside, Yi Chuan answered that he would choose gold, because for him, gold had a higher resale value. Master Tai Shin scolded him, saying he wasn't as stupid as he looked. While holding the golden limbs of the golden venom spider, he placed them one by one into a container to melt them in blazing fire. Master Tai Shin was pleased with what he was doing until it was fully melted, and he slowly dripped it onto Yi Chuan's blade. Then he struck it hard with his hammer, causing an explosion of fire and golden light. After several dozen minutes, the enhancement of Yi Chuan's weapon was completed. It now had glowing golden lines. After handing it to Yi Chuan, he even told him that he really hit the jackpot today. Usually, someone who requested weapon enhancement paid at least 500,000, but Yi Chuan got it for free. Yi Chuan thanked him while looking at his enhanced weapon. He thought it had become heavier. He told Master Tai Shin that it looked great, but asked what the actual effect was. Master Tai Shin explained that enhanced weapons normally activated after a certain number of attacks. For the gold attribute, it would likely be triggered by critical hits. Yi Chuan started thinking about critical hits and realized he had chosen correctly. With his system talents, his critical capability was at the highest level. Holding his dragon-slaying knife glowing with golden light, he began swinging it repeatedly in the air, leaving golden trails. Even after swinging it many times, he felt like nothing was happening yet. After many swings of his dragon-slaying knife, he suddenly stopped and widened his eyes when he saw the golden glow on his weapon intensify. Then a system notification appeared. His pig butchered blade was successfully enhanced. Blessing level 1. Passive skill. Every 9th strike would cause the 10th strike to deal 200% damage. Higher skill levels would increase critical damage and reduce the required activation count. After reading the system message, Yi Chuan thanked Master Tai Shin again. He also said that if Master Tai Shin needed help in the future, he wouldn't refuse. Master Tai Shin told him that this was the only thing he could do for him. Then he waved as Yi Chuan walked out. The scene shifted to Yi Chuan standing at the foot of the mountain where the Nine Heaven Alliance was located. He observed the beautiful scenery and the long staircase leading to the top. As he walked upward, he saw the principal. The principal immediately asked what he was doing there. Yi Chuan didn't answer and instead asked the same question back. The principal scolded him not to repeat what he said. He was there to recommend students from their academy to the Nine Heaven Alliance. He needed to see if their students would be accepted, because it brought great honor to the school. Yi Chuan just stared at him. The principal added that he shouldn't blame him for not being included in the recommendation list. After all, he wasn't from a combat profession. He also said that none of his recommended students were accepted, not even Shu Lingxuan, since the Nine Heaven Alliance standards were extremely high. After he finished speaking, he asked Yi Chuan what he was doing there. Yi Chuan said he was there for intense mountain climbing training. The principal was surprised by what he heard, saying that Yi Chuan must have reached a bottleneck in his growth, but that was normal for a life profession. The principal placed his hand on Yi Chuan's shoulder and advised him to give up the path of combat and focus on proper pig slaughtering. Yi Chuan said he understood and that he would immediately return to pig slaughtering. As Yi Chuan was about to leave, the principal suddenly sensed something from his presence. Before Yi Chuan could get far, he stopped him and asked what realm he was in now. Yi Chuan replied that he was close to the first-rank climbing pond realm. The principal burst out in shock and nearly broke into a sweat at what he heard. In just a few days, Yi Chuan had advanced that far. He thought that it was definitely the aura of the climbing pond realm. Even Shu Lingxuan, the fastest-growing student under his guidance, had only just reached the 9-ranked apprentice level. Even though leveling up was easier for life professions in the early stages, it shouldn't be this fast. According to his calculations, Yi Chuan would need to slaughter no less than 100,000 pigs to reach that level. To him, this boy was unbelievable. As the principal was still thinking, Yi Chuan asked if he needed anything else. The principal remained in shock, his mouth still open. Then he suddenly rushed toward Yi Chuan, saliva nearly flying everywhere, saying he wanted to invite Yi Chuan to join the college entrance tournament. Yi Chuan almost closed his eyes to avoid the flying spit. He also asked about the college entrance tournament. Wasn't it only for the top elite combat professions? The principal shouted yes, still spitting as he talked. He explained that life professions usually couldn't qualify. Their original candidates were Lu Jinglong and Shu Lingxuan. But unfortunately, Lu Jinglong had suffered chest injuries yesterday and his spiritual power had been severely damaged. He could no longer compete. Yi Chuan recalled what happened and realized it might have come from the incident he caused. The principal shouted that although Shu Lingxuan would likely take first place due to her strength, the competition was based on team points. If the remaining students couldn't enter the top 10, no matter how strong one person was, they couldn't raise the school's reputation. In the end, the academy would still remain at the bottom of the leaderboard, not even entering the honor list. As Yi Chuan wiped the spit from his face, he asked what that had to do with him. The principal moved closer again and grabbed his shoulders. He told him that as long as he agreed to participate and make it into the top 3, he would give him anything he asked for. Yi Chuan carefully thought about what wish he most needed at the moment. After a brief reflection, he immediately told the principal that what he wanted was 500,000. His voice carried no hesitation, direct and full of determination. The principal replied that as long as he could enter the top 3, that amount would not be a problem. 500,000 was no issue for him. Yet behind his words, the principal thought that a profession not focused on combat, like Yi Chuan's, even if slightly higher in level, seemed impossible to dream of entering the top 3 against the powerful combat teams. For him, it was pure fantasy. If Yi Chuan failed, he would not need to pay any money. But Yi Chuan's request did not end there, for he also said that aside from money, he needed a storage-type spirit weapon. The principal scolded him, saying the boy was thick-skinned. Storage-type spirit weapons were rewards only for the most outstanding student each year. They were extremely valuable and not casually given. Hearing this, Yi Chuan immediately turned away and coldly said, "In that case, forget it." Before Yi Chuan could leave, the principal's tone suddenly changed. He quickly agreed and said Yi Chuan could have his request, but with a condition. He would only get it if he entered the top 3. Without hesitation, Yi Chuan accepted the agreement and said he understood the condition. Afterwards, the principal walked down, almost shaking his head to himself, seemingly puzzled by the courage and audacity of the boy before him. Arriving at the Grand Gate of the Nine Heaven Alliance, Yi Chuan observed it carefully. The gate was massive, towering, and seemed to radiate power. As he entered, he was immediately met by a muscular guard with a sharp gaze, who asked his purpose there. Without hesitation, Yi Chuan introduced himself and said he was there to see Miss Zhang. The guard laughed mockingly, saying he thought anyone could just meet Miss Zhang. But the guard was shocked when the door suddenly opened and the beautiful, alluring Miss Zhang appeared before them. Smiling, she greeted Yi Chuan, saying at last he had arrived. She had been waiting for him for a long time. She immediately held Yi Chuan's arm and invited him to let her show him the entire Nine Heaven Alliance. The guard was left gaping, unable to believe what he was seeing, and fell silent. Inside, Miss Zhang pointed out the main buildings one by one. The South Tower was for residents. The North Tower was the general section. The East Tower was for dining. The West Tower was for training. She added that the mission reception, reward exchange, and recreation were all located in the North Tower. Yi Chuan was amazed and said the place was remarkable. Afterwards, Miss Zhang again invited Yi Chuan to come with her because he would now be registered, and from then on he was one of them. But before he could leave, someone suddenly grabbed his shoulder. It was Uncle Qian, with a mischievous grin. He said that at last brother Yi Chuan had arrived. He urged him to come to the North Tower Lodge, where the massage girls were the best. But a loud smack resounded, leaving a big lump on Uncle Qian's head. Miss Zhang had struck him and sternly said that Yi Chuan had just joined, so he should stop ruining him. She ordered Uncle Qian to fetch the membership gift she had prepared for Yi Chuan. As he walked away, Uncle Qian sighed and told Miss Zhang she really did not understand men. The scene shifted to the North Tower service zone, where Miss Zhang and Yi Chuan entered. The receptionist was surprised to see Miss Zhang personally arrive. Miss Zhang ordered her to make a black card for Yi Chuan. The receptionist hesitated and said the black card was the highest access pass. It granted free entry to any place in the Nine Heaven Alliance base. Was she sure she wanted to issue a black card to this newcomer? Miss Zhang seriously told her to just do as she said. The receptionist immediately complied and asked Yi Chuan to register his information. After a short while, the receptionist congratulated him while handing over the black card. From now on, he was an advanced member of the Nine Heaven Alliance. Yi Chuan asked as he received the black card. If there were different levels of cards, why was he given a black card? Miss Zhang explained that in the Nine Heaven Alliance, everyone's permissions depended on contribution points. These were earned by completing missions for the Alliance. Only those with more than 100,000 contribution points qualified for a black card. And for Yi Chuan, since she personally recruited him and because he had made a great contribution in the battle against the Thunder Lions Alliance, it was natural that he qualified for the black card. And above all, with a seductive tone and gesture, Miss Zhang said she expected much from Yi Chuan. But in Yi Chuan's eyes, he felt uneasy at her frightening pig-like face. Their conversation was cut short when Uncle Qian suddenly shouted from behind while running. Embarrassed, the two moved apart, realizing something seemed wrong. Uncle Qian quickly handed the rewards to Yi Chuan, saying this was the gift for a newcomer. This reward was specially prepared by Miss Zhang for him, more luxurious than what other newcomers received. Yi Chuan immediately thanked Miss Zhang. Afterwards, she told Uncle Qian he could leave now. She herself would take Yi Chuan to his residence. The scene shifted to where they entered the Nether Demon Spring. Yi Chuan quickly asked Miss Zhang, didn't she say earlier that the residence was in the South Tower? Miss Zhang replied, wasn't he injured in the last battle? This spring, she said, could heal his body. Miss Zhang immediately removed her clothing, revealing her sexy figure in a two-piece, and directly immersed herself in the spring. In a gentle tone, she invited Yi Chuan to join her. Yi Chuan immediately took off his clothes and stepped forward, slowly approaching Miss Zhang. However, before he could fully get close, Miss Zhang noticed something and instead approached Yi Chuan herself. She carefully examined the wound on his chest and said that the injuries were still fresh. She asked whether Yi Chuan had encountered any danger last night. Instead of answering directly, Yi Chuan immediately submerged himself in the stream and lied, saying that he was only injured by an accident and that there was nothing to worry about. Miss Zhang said that she truly should thank him for what happened before. If it were not for Yi Chuan, the Thunder Lion Alliance would have already obtained the Windfire Ape's hide. Meanwhile, as Yi Chuan remained submerged and stirred bubbles in the water, he secretly thought that if Miss Zhang really wanted to thank him, it would be better for her to simply stay away from him. After a short while, Miss Zhang took out 2 items and pointed at Yi Chuan. She instructed him to open them and take a look, saying that cultivating inside the Nether Demon Spring would be more effective. Yi Chuan immediately took the small box and opened it. Inside was a dark-colored pill. As he examined it, Miss Zhang explained that he should consume it because it would strengthen, speed up, and toughen his body. Hesitant, Yi Chuan asked what the pill actually was. In his mind, he clearly read its name as pig aphrodisiac. Miss Zhang slightly stuck out her tongue in a teasing manner and said that he would only know its effects after eating it. In the end, Yi Chuan swallowed the pill. As he chewed it, he tasted a chocolate-like flavor that was somewhat pleasant. However, only moments later, he suddenly felt a powerful surge of energy that enveloped his entire body. The force was so intense that even Miss Zhang had to close her eyes from the strength of it. Yi Chuan was shocked and stared blankly at what was happening. Meanwhile, Miss Zhang was completely stunned before explaining that what he had consumed was a Vajra pill refined by a high-grade alchemist from the Nine Heaven Alliance. Only one pill could be produced every 6 months, and it could permanently strengthen the physical body of the consumer while simultaneously increasing its 3 main attributes. A system notification immediately appeared, stating that his strength, agility, and spirit had increased significantly. Yi Chuan could hardly believe the sudden rise in his attributes and had not expected a single pill to have such a powerful effect. After that, he picked up the scroll and opened it. His entire body was instantly enveloped in golden light emitted from the scroll. A system notification appeared, stating that it was a high-grade passive skill called Golden Bell Shield. It could remain active at all times and was capable of blocking a fatal blow. Once broken, however, it could not be reactivated for 12 hours. Another system notification appeared, indicating that the Golden Bell Shield had been activated, and the golden light gradually shaped itself around his body into golden markings. Miss Zhang explained that Yi Chuan's previous golden shield of armor had shattered in the last battle, so he should treat this scroll as compensation from the Nine Heaven Alliance. Yi Chuan expressed his thanks and said that he did not know how he could repay such great kindness. With a slightly seductive posture, Miss Zhang said that it would take 1 month to complete the fire-resistant armor made from the Windfire ape's hide. After 1 month, Yi Chuan would join them to challenge the Flame Blade King, and she hoped that he would play his part. Yi Chuan scratched his head and asked how many people they had and how high the chances of success were. In a calm tone, Miss Zhang said that the success rate was less than 10%. Yi Chuan's mind reeled, and he said that if that was the case, it would be like heading straight to their deaths. He also wondered why the daughter of the Nine Heaven Alliance's leader had to personally face such danger. Miss Zhang explained that because she was the Alliance head's daughter, it was her duty to go in person. She did not want to live her entire life in her father's shadow, as if her hands and feet were bound. She needed to prove herself, and if she could not do that, then it would be better for her to die. She also recalled the rumors that although her father, the Alliance head, was extremely capable, he had only produced a daughter, something that some people regarded as a disgrace. Yi Chuan also remembered what the traitor who had once accompanied them said, that he could not endure the young woman's unreasonable methods. Yi Chuan realized that even in a place filled with experts, Miss Zhang was still not safe from suspicion. Miss Zhang noticed Yi Chuan's silence and asked whether he was afraid. Yi Chuan scratched his head again and shyly said that his father and mother had taught him that when there was a duty, he had to fulfill it. Miss Zhang became even more pleased by what she heard and, in a teasing tone, said that he truly was a good child. Then she jokingly said that she would bet that he was still a virgin. Was that right? She suddenly hugged Yi Chuan and pressed her body against his, saying that they might die in one of the upcoming raids. If she had any regrets, she was willing to fulfill them for him. Yi Chuan immediately pushed Miss Zhang away as if shoving off a pig, seriously apologized, and said that he could not die there because he still had something important to finish. After saying that, he walked out of the room. Miss Zhang was left stunned and unable to believe what had happened, quietly watching Yi Chuan leave. However, when the door opened, she saw Uncle Qian standing there as if he had been listening. When Miss Zhang saw him, she immediately asked what he was doing there. Uncle Qian scratched his head and laughed, saying that he had only come to treat his injuries and did not know they were inside. He was about to leave when Yi Chuan stopped him and asked for a favor, requesting that Uncle Qian become his sparring partner. Uncle Qian immediately agreed and said that Yi Chuan was a good child. He understood Yi Chuan's eagerness to grow stronger, but there was a large gap in strength between them, and sparring with him would cause great hardship. Miss Zhang happily watched the two of them and said that it seemed her judgment was correct, because this child had endless potential. The next morning, at the West Tower training ground, Yi Chuan and Uncle Qian were already preparing for their training. Yi Chuan quietly thought that only by becoming stronger would he be able to see his parents again, and he prayed in his heart that they could endure a little longer because he would come to take them as soon as possible. He drew his dragon-slaying knife, which glowed with golden light, and told Uncle Qian not to hold back. Uncle Qian was delighted and shouted that in that case, he would also get serious. Before their training even began, Yi Chuan once again firmly affirmed in his mind that he needed to become stronger. After 9 days at the West Tower training ground, Miss Zhang arrived carrying a lunch bag. As she walked toward the gathered crowd, she could not help but think that those two men, Yi Chuan and Uncle Qian, were clearly a bit crazy. Aside from eating and sleeping, the two of them came here every single day just to spar, as if possessed by some insane obsession. Even so, despite her complaints, Miss Zhang had to admit that the two of them gave her a strong sense of security and reliability. In the middle of the training session, Yi Chuan counted each attack he released, while Uncle Qian continuously blocked them. Because Yi Chuan's movements were slightly slow, Uncle Qian shouted at him to speed up. In response, Yi Chuan's movements became even faster. When the 9th consecutive attack was launched, Uncle Qian finally saw a brief opening in Yi Chuan's defense. He did not miss the opportunity and immediately raised his massive hammer to strike. However, while still in midair, Yi Chuan gathered powerful golden energy throughout his entire body. His eyes began to glow as he prepared his counterattack, and he shouted at the top of his lungs, "Blessed falling star." Since Uncle Qian had prepared first, his hammer struck first. A terrifying blow landed on Yi Chuan, who was wrapped in thick golden energy that formed something like a sacred barrier. Uncle Qian's heart skipped. Why didn't the boy dodge? A heavy sense of panic surged through him as he wondered if he had crushed Yi Chuan to death. Suddenly, the golden barrier shattered. Fragments scattered through the air as Yi Chuan rapidly descended. His eyes shone with golden light, and even his weapon glimmered with the same energy, a sight that shocked Uncle Qian. Yi Chuan's attack fell like a massive golden lightning bolt crashing down from the heavens. Uncle Qian blocked it immediately, but he could not stop himself from cursing at its overwhelming force. At that moment, he fully realized, Yi Chuan was serious. The power of Yi Chuan's sword caused cracks to spread across Uncle Qian's weapon. Golden energy burst outward, exploding into the surroundings and forcing the spectators to shield their faces. They could hardly believe what they were seeing. Some called the two of them monsters, while others pointed out that Yi Chuan was merely a newcomer. Yet after only a few days of training, he was already able to stand on equal footing with Uncle Qian. After the fierce exchange, Uncle Qian remained standing. Behind him, the platform was almost completely destroyed. A few moments later, his expression changed as he noticed his weapon. Slowly, it broke apart piece by piece before collapsing entirely. He shouted in anger and frustration, then told Yi Chuan to stop the fight. If they continued, Yi Chuan would have to compensate him with a new weapon. Yi Chuan scratched his head apologetically and joked that his pockets were cleaner than his face. He had no money to pay. Their conversation was interrupted when Miss Zhang, standing behind the crowd, suddenly called out to them, telling them to stop and eat. The spectators immediately made way, silently watching her. Meanwhile, Uncle Qian stood dazed, still unable to believe that Yi Chuan's final strike had completely destroyed what he once called his strongest spirit weapon. The fearsome extent of Yi Chuan's power became even clearer in his mind. When Miss Zhang approached, Yi Chuan immediately asked what delicious food she had brought today. At that moment, a system notification appeared before him. His level had risen to the 3rd rank, climbing Pond Realm. His strength, agility, and spirit power had all reached 140. His blessing had been upgraded to level 2, and his passive skill, where the 8th and 9th strikes deal 220% damage, had been strengthened. As the skill level increased, the critical damage increased as well, while the number of strikes required to trigger it decreased. His Nether Shadow Sweep had been upgraded to level 3, granting a 50% speed increase for 70 seconds when activated. His Blood Shadow Butcher had also reached level 3. Uncle Chuan sadly told Miss Zhang that he had lost a top-tier spirit weapon in nothing more than a simple sparring match with Yi Chuan. What was he supposed to do now? Miss Zhang smiled and said that later, she would take him to the spirit weapon storage so he could choose another suitable one. She then urged both of them to hurry and eat first. When Yi Chuan and Uncle Chuan arrived at the table, their eyes widened at the sight of so many delicious dishes. They immediately began eating. While they were eating, Miss Zhang said that Yi Chuan had clearly grown much stronger. Perhaps they now had hope of facing the Flame Blade King. As Yi Chuan devoured a chicken leg, he suddenly remembered that he needed to leave the next day. He informed Miss Zhang. Both of them were shocked. Miss Zhang asked where he was going. Yi Chuan could not answer immediately. He nearly choked and repeatedly pounded his chest. After swallowing, he told them not to worry. He had only made a promise to Principal Zhao to return for an examination, and he would be back again in a few days. Hearing this, Uncle Chuan immediately grabbed Yi Chuan's hand and honestly admitted that after sparring with him for the past few days, he had grown extremely fond of him. Couldn't he stay a little longer? Couldn't they continue training tomorrow? A loud sound suddenly echoed, and a bump instantly formed on Uncle Chuan's head. Miss Zhang had smacked him and scolded him for being a nuisance, telling him not to put Yi Chuan in a difficult position. She then approached Yi Chuan and reminded him to be careful on his journey. They would wait for his return. The next day, at the gates of the Nine Heaven Alliance, Miss Zhang and Uncle Chuan waved as Yi Chuan departed. As they watched him leave, Uncle Chuan said that he truly liked that boy. His strength was worthy of recognition. If they brought him to that place, what do you think would happen? Miss Zhang replied seriously. If they could return alive from Chutian Valley, that would prove Yi Chuan's strength was worthy of reaching that place. The scene shifted to the school gate. Yi Chuan stood quietly, leaning against a pillar, while groups of students gathered in the distance. Moments later, someone shouted that Shu Lingxuan had arrived. She appeared with a serious expression, and her gaze darkened even further when she noticed Yi Chuan sitting quietly off to the side. She asked herself why that man was here. Meanwhile, the woman behind her also spotted Yi Chuan and immediately shouted, demanding to know why he was here. Did he have some scheme to get close to Shu Lingxuan again? Yi Chuan suddenly threw a powerful punch into the wall. A sharp sound rang out as cracks spread across the surface. He turned toward the woman with a grin and coldly told her to leave. The woman stumbled backward in fear at the strength he displayed, yet despite trembling and sweating, she still did not stop. She called Yi Chuan a clown seeking attention, truly laughable. The chapter ends here. Watch out for our upcoming uploads. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll always be updated on our future videos.